Well, we're back here with Jason Varitek, former catcher of the Boston Red Sox. And,
my knees are bad. They're very bad, just like his.
Bad knees.
Bad knees.
And we're having a good time talking about all things Plymouth and business and industry and innovation, real cool stuff. And so much is happening. When we met at the Plymouth Rotary luncheon, there's all sorts of Rotary groups. I think we're the lunch midday Rotary Club.
Yeah, and then there's a morning group, Sunrise. They call it Sunrise.
Yeah. And I'm an early riser. I should be in that group, not this one, the luncheon one. But nevertheless,
I know you're on a fast, but the lunch was good that day.
Oh, I'm not on a fast anymore.
Okay, so you had lunch that day?
I'm going to make this section quick so I can go out and eat. 'Cause,
good for you.
I got to get my food eating face on. Thanks for coming on again.
Glad to.
And we teased it beforehand about a Bigfoot Yeti kind of creature roaming the waterways of Plymouth.
Yeah.
And I saw you at the Business Expo and you told me to check out this podcast, and then I shouldn't say I couldn't find it. I didn't really look, too much, but
I'll send it to you. I can share it. Yeah, I'll share it.
But tell me about this thing, because I think that this is the sea serpent.
Yes, that's how it's. So Henry David Thoreau. A lot of viewers know who Henry David Thoreau is. He spent time in Plymouth. And while he was here, he recorded in his journal, I think it was June 14th, 1857, that a number of reliable witnesses around town had seen this sea serpent. And that was the terms he used, sea serpent. And he describes this thing. It has the head somewhat like a horse's, raised some 6 feet above the water, a body like a cask, right, like a cask of wine or something.
Yeah.
And the serpentine tail. And so when I first learned of this, it was through the Plymouth Poet Laureate. The foundation wants to support arts in the economy. We think it's an underserved area that you can have a more robust arts economy to help create that dwell time and experience for folks. So he ends up doing some research and finds out that this journal entry exists. When I read it, I thought, my gosh, this is a perfect icon, some kind of a mascot that we can use to develop our blue economy. We were talking about Plymouth Rock before the break. We were talking about the Pilgrims. Those are icons.
Sure.
So too is a cryptid, especially for a cool tourism town like Plymouth. Roswell has its aliens, right? Dover has its demon. Dover, Mass has a Dover demon myth, right?
Oh,
I know.
I didn't know that.
The Jersey Devil. We've heard all of these things before. Plymouth has a sea serpent myth, and it's recorded from a reliable source.
Well, first of all, let's get things straight here.
Yeah.
We already have whales out there, and if you've never seen one, that can look pretty scary too.
Sure.
And every once in a while we'll see the S word, the shark, coming around, which makes people. I think I showed that scroll information legend thing that you had passed out.
Sure.
And showed it to my son-in-law, and he says, I'm never going back in the water. And so we want to make everything clear that even if this thing is out there right now swimming, the chances of it getting you are pretty slim. It's like
so we know that the Gloucester has a sea serpent myth also. Basically,
it'd be the same one.
I believe it's probably the same one.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're that big, you need a larger hunting ground.
Right.
As we know, it has never been accredited with taking a human life.
Okay.
In the story that Henry David Thoreau records, he says that mackerel beached themselves in large numbers because of their fright. So something was out there.
Yeah.
Whether it was a whale or otherwise, we don't know. Though he does actually name sources that describes this thing, as I said, head somewhat like a horse's. When I read that description, it struck me very familiar. I grew up in a traditional Irish-American household.
Yeah.
I had a deep affinity for things like religion and mythology and theology. This immediately conjured images for me of a Kelpie, the water horse of Celtic and Irish mythology. It would lure you to its back, and it would dive deep beneath the waves. Essentially, monsters are told, they're stories that are told to teach us about ourselves, right? I believe the Kelpie was started as a myth or a lore because it was an anti-drowning campaign. Mothers would tell their kids, don't go to the water, the bog, or the craggy coast because the Kelpie may drown, may get you. So I think it was an anti-drowning campaign.
That's why they said don't go swimming 15 minutes until 15 minutes after you've eaten. That's just mothers who didn't want to be looking at you in the water. I think. There's no factual basis of that either, right?
At least there was no monster to it. I mean, the internal monster was yourself, right? Like you might cramp.
Right.
You're weak and frail.
Yeah, exactly.
So we adopted this kelpie, and we had one created. I think I showed you the
Yeah, and it was cute. So I think there's
plushie.
nothing to be afraid of.
We didn't want it to be fearsome, so we
Sure.
gave it like that My Little Pony kind of motif with like the twinkle in the eye, so it's
Sure.
more approachable. But the idea here is that we're a cool tourism town. We have a cryptid. We've forgotten about that cryptid. We want to celebrate that cryptid. I'm aware of an art exhibit that happened in Nantucket. I believe it was a native artist from the Wampanoag Ikena tribe, and I believe he had it was inflatable sea serpent that he had off the coast of Nantucket that greeted boats as they came by.
Wow.
I would love to replicate that. I would love to have something
Sure.
near our waterfront that would greet the cruise ships as they come in, that kind of reinforces that myth.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I'm an animal lover, and I have more sympathy for the animals that have got the bad rap because a shark doesn't hate us.
Sure.
They just are doing their thing. And we all of a sudden, and it was funny because I was talking to this guy years ago about the increasing shark population around the area, and I asked him. He was the Richard Dreyfuss character in Jaws. Like that was his
sure.
job.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
sort of the scientist studying. And he had said that it all had to do, the increase in amount of sharks had to do with the decrease in budgets for towns. And I said, well, please elaborate. That's interesting. And he said a lot of the Cape towns had to cut back on the amount of time that they would empty the trash at the beaches, like at the beach, the cans, and still didn't make the connection. And he said, because seagulls would come in and they would be eating the McDonald's, wrappers of the left discarded food or whatever, and the seals would be looking at the seagulls where they were because they were an indication of where the fish were, so they were coming in, and then the sharks were seeing the seals come in, so it was like this butterfly effect of nature sort of adapting. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe that is what it was. I don't know, but nevertheless, there's all the shark tourism even on the Cape is something where people, just like we go on whale watchers, there's now shark tours where you can go out and they'll have spotters because a lot of them are tagged if the great whites are out there, and people get to come and see those, which is, I guess, kind of good. I've never seen one in real life, but that would be kind of an experience. Maybe we'll do some sort of segment on this channel for that. But yeah, I think it's a great thing to get integrated into the tourism and the gift shops and all that, and that would be even more remarkable to see something out there, some sort of robotic serpent or.
So we have our Blue Economy Conference, right? We do this in October. Usually it's the week of or the week before, leading into STEM Week in Massachusetts.
Okay.
But it's a 2-day conference. Day one is reserved for students. We want to connect students who are graduating to employers.
Where do you have this?
So we do it at 1620,
Okay.
And this year we're doing it on the 15th and the 16th. The 16th,
Of November or
of October. Of October.
October.
Yep. So we'll kick off on the 16th. The 15th will be for students. The 16th we'll kick off with a session on marine technology. We have a company that launches submarines out of Plymouth.
You were saying
at
that's
Portage Park.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to feature them and some of their colleagues and some of the robotics elements that they brought to our economy. We have a session on climate resiliency, which, as a coastal community, every coastal community, there's 78 in Massachusetts. Every one of us are concerned about, of course, climate resiliency and what sea level rises will do, not just for our coastline, but also for our water table. We have to be mindful of that most of our water from this area comes from underground. And then we have, in the afternoon, we have a keynote speaker to be determined. We have a couple of feelers out there. We always have someone dynamic, though.
I'll do it.
I wasn't going to ask
Why
directly,
were you laughing?
but I appreciate.
So quite a guffaw.
No, because you saw right through me. You pierced the veil. That's exactly what I was leaning toward.
I didn't want to beat around the bush. Just ask.
I
I'll do
appreciate
it,
that. You're very direct.
Thank you.
And then we have, in the afternoon, we'll have a session on what we call public policy roundtable. We have our elected officials, some state level elected officials, sitting around a table with industry leaders. And it's a chance for the elected officials to hear from industry leaders and vice versa. What are the elected officials working on in the House? What should they be working on in the House and the Senate?
Right.
These are the people who are looking for startup capital or to reduce the barrier to entry in some way because of some regulation. So we bridge that gap as conveners. And then I'm very glad to say the last thing that we do, actually this year we're going to have a pilot program. We have 6 businesses that we're working with that are featuring or working on their product or their service somewhere in Plymouth. So it's an opportunity for small businesses to talk about their findings. And then the last thing we do getting to the sea serpent and food, it ties it all together. We call it ugly fish networking. So we have a networking event that all of our guests for the conference are invited to attend. We usually have some kind of a presentation from someone. The first year we had Keith Ellenbogen. Talk about diving down and seeing sharks up front. I am semi-buoyant. I mean, I'm not diving more than 5 feet before I get back to the surface. Keith is someone who dives deep beneath the waves, and he's an oceanographer. And we featured him the first year with some of his amazing images that he's seen. I'd like to talk about Keith because it reminds me of Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan famously was advocating for adding cameras to the early satellites. It yielded no useful scientific data, but he knew that if you really wanted to capture the imagination of the public, the voting, tax-paying public, you need to get them something that's going to get them excited. Pictures get us very excited as people. Essentially, Keith is one of those people who will show us a world like these early satellites that you and I would never see. That's why we wanted to honor him with our first STEAM award, right? I talked about that we're going to do this during STEM week. When you add arts to STEM, you have STEAM, and that's where you have real power.
So clever.
It is pretty clever. We have a very clever group of people coming up with this stuff.
Absolutely.
Last year, we featured Glenn Gorkowitz. He's a researcher at WHOI out in Falmouth, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. His personal specialty hobby is actually studying maps from the age of exploration, specifically the sea monsters that are on these maps. And he told us, he had a great presentation that taught us about why these things even exist. What do they teach us about ourselves? And look, to pull back the curtain a little bit, sometimes these things appear on maps because they're essentially a signature mark for the cartographer.
Oh, wow.
So that way they know if their map has been replicated in some way unauthorized.
Yeah.
So, there's some really fun human elements to these types of things. This year we're working on our presentation. We're going to have it, I think, at the Terrace again this year, right on the waterfront. Chef Kyle last year prepared for us an amazing menu taking ugly fish and doing what I said earlier, educating consumers to more sustainable options, educating restaurateurs that consumers are ready for more interesting options. He had a monkfish for us, and he made it taste just like lobster. He prepared skate, he prepared kelp. There was a beer company based in Falmouth called Aquatic Brewing that we've worked with. They made us our first year, they made us a kelp beer. And it was delicious. It was,
really?
Yeah, a little bit of a salinity to it, right? But it was a very whole-bodied, delicious light beer. It was so popular that they put it into their regular seasonal rotation. And when I spoke with them again recently, they mentioned that they started doing some R&D with it and adding scallop shells to add with the minerality and balancing the flavors.
Well, I know up in Maine, lobster ice cream is a popular...
Oh my gosh.
You like it?
I've never had it.
I've never had it either.
No.
And it doesn't appeal to me
No.
like the jelly donut.
I don't like savory ice creams. I want a sweet,
but
desserty
people
ice
like
cream.
it. And sometimes it could be a gimmick, like some type of thing in an ice cream where people might not even... Nobody would like it, but they might try it.
Sure.
But sometimes you can hit it out of the park with something that old commercial with the chocolate falling into the peanut butter.
Yeah, you got peanut butter on my chocolate.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And you never know what kind of thing can come of it. And somebody at one point, I used to do stand-up comedy, and I had this bit about having the first guy that tried milk. Like, what the hell did he have to do?
Absolutely,
yeah. And looking at a lobster and going, you know what, I think...
I want that
was it
sea
all
bug.
a dare?
Yeah.
Everything at one point seemed like the Neanderthals were daring each other to do things because it's a risk to take a lobster. Looking at that is as unappealing as you can imagine. And my wife, like I mentioned, who's a teacher, in the summertime she works for a clam bake company on the Cape, and you see weddings. They have these traditional New England bakes, and people still look at, they can't even believe what they're looking at when they see a lobster on a plate. They don't know what to do. And I'm thinking, it's 2025. You see Red Lobster commercials all over the world, and you really can't figure that out. But people still, they see an oyster or a raw bar, clams on the half shell, and they just go, ugh. They can't even understand why that might be appealing, but it is fun.
It's ugly.
It is.
It's ugly, and people are averse.
I don't
to
think
ugly
actually.
things.
It's ugly, but I love it. So I will actually take the ugly away. But I can see how people react to it, where they would be if they don't have an adventurous spirit to themselves.
Oh, we see this in produce. I mean, there's this whole co-ops and stores that have been founded on buying peppers that are somewhat malformed, right? Because they probably wouldn't sell on an open market at Stop and Shop or Market Basket.
Or a carrot that looks like Mother Teresa. That's a great, you can put it on Instagram and be famous.
Yep. Yep. So it's the same. I mean, we're just averse to ugly things. I mean, I'm sure you and I have never experienced this ourselves.
No, of course not.
But I understand entirely how people have an aversion to not wanting to eat something that they've never seen before, or only ever saw on TV, or they just don't know how to crack it open. You know,
Yeah.
there's this armor shell.
Well, there
on this
used to be
bug.
this like adventure eating tourist community where you would go to the the wet markets in China and stuff, and then all of a sudden the rumors about people eating bats and getting COVID was
Sure.
started and all that. But
Yeah.
I love the idea of going like that Andrew Zimmerman on the Food Channel who would go and what was it, Bizarre Foods, and try different things, and I kind of, when I'm not hungry, that seems appealing to me because it's like you try something. But when I'm hungry, I want to know what I'm eating is going to do the job.
Right.
You know,
I'm
that
with you
kind of
there.
thing.
I find that very relatable.
So, anyway. So let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Your day-to-day, what are some of the challenges that you face in terms of communication and public objection? Because no matter what, you could say, hey, we want to have a money fountain in Plymouth, and everyone can come and get money, and people would still, there's going to be your objectors, there's going to be your naysayers and your professional agitators and that kind of thing. What are some of the things that you face in terms of what you're trying to do?
Sure. So, I mean, we probably should have started this way, but a very organic conversation.
Yeah.
I find it easy to talk to you, Chuck.
I'm the Johnny Carson of 2025, I guess.
So economic development, anywhere you go, is inherently democratic. So some of the focus areas for Plymouth, right? Transportation is a big problem for Plymouth, right? But as a goal for the Economic Development Foundation, we don't prioritize it for myriad reasons, right? We don't have the resources, and the political will is not aligned, right? I mean, you really need some significant state support in order to build out a robust transportation system. I see it as an entrepreneur. It is an entrepreneurial endeavor. There's a problem that needs to be solved. Entrepreneurs solve those types of problems, but they need support. Governments can sometimes subsidize markets to make sure that what they want to see happen happens. So I want to make that clear. The things that we work on are largely defined by the town or the towns that we work with as being a priority or an objective. Even though that priority or objective is set, I mean, you could have town meetings set that objective and priority. You can have the select board endorse it. You can have the town manager aligning resources behind it. In a town like Plymouth, you're always going to have people who have a different point of view, and that's to be respected. I think, though, that sometimes when those types of points of views are in some way defamatory, deceitful, if sometimes perhaps they don't take into consideration the fact that there is a process and a procedure of policies that are set up so that we can achieve an outcome. Some of the people who are detractors from that goal will sometimes do things to undermine policies, to undermine procedures. So I don't want to be too vague or cryptic about this, but the fact is we're not in charge of permitting.
Right.
We're a small nonprofit with one staff person, and you're looking at them, and 13 volunteer board members who don't receive a stipend to be on our board. So it's all volunteer, one staff person, no admins, no project managers. I really am relying on my 20 years of experience doing this in other cities and towns. We wouldn't be able to get it done without our partners at the Chamber of Commerce, the school department, the town itself, the town government itself, the town manager. So I just want to be clear to folks too, despite our best intentions, we respond to the political and the economic climate of any community. We don't take land by eminent domain. We will buy land of low value because we expect that perhaps there may be some brownfields contamination there. Using my skills and my expertise over 20 years of doing this, I know, given enough of a timeline, we can clean that site and get it back on the tax rolls.
Let me ask you a quick question
Yes, sir.
about the eminent domain, because
Yeah.
I think that, and it might be completely unrelated, but maybe you have some knowledge of it. The new bridge is going in.
Sure, yeah.
And you're hearing people from Sagamore and Bourne who are literally knocking on the door, hey, guess what? We're taking your house and taking your property. What's that? What, do you hear things about that? I mean, that's out of your purview, I think. But that's going to be a concern for a lot of folks down there who may have already been approached and who may not be on the map there. But what do you know about eminent domain and that kind of thing? And maybe that's a whole other show altogether.
We should probably do another follow-up show on
Yeah.
that. But so I mean, any government can to essentially take by eminent domain as long as it fulfulfills.
I should call this show ADD because that's what I have. And
No,
I'm
I
all
like
over-
this. I
I'm
like
all over the-
rabbit holes.
okay.
I like going down rabbit holes.
Gotcha.
There was a famous case in New London, Connecticut, right? The Kelo case, right? Which basically allowed Pfizer to essentially, or the city of New London to take land so that Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company,
Why
can
is that
build
name that's coming up on every show I do?
What's that,
Pfizer comes
Pfizer?
up, the big
Well,
pharma
not sure.
conversations. And
In this particular instance,
every show.
it's
Yeah.
because they were going to take people's homes so that they
Yeah.
could develop a new facility. And then ultimately, after this went through the legal process and the Supreme Court affirmed that, yeah, you can take this land by eminent domain, Pfizer elected to not build the facility in that location. So, you know, it's one of those faux pas things. In this instance, speaking about the bridges, this is a unique multi-jurisdictional project
Right.
because you have state and feds involved.
Yeah.
I think that for myself, this is just John Q. Public here pontificating about what I lament because you gave me the opportunity to do so.
Sure, of course.
I understand that the bridges need to be relocated from their current footprint, right? So that means someone is going to lose because
I've only gone through the tunnel, the Cape Cod Tunnel. I exclusively use that. It's just so much more convenient. and
very little traffic
it's
because you need the permit in order to get
exclusive
through.
club. I don't want to get into it too much. I know the password, but go ahead.
And you can't tell them where the entrance or the exit is,
nope.
but it's not where you think they are. So with the bridges, we know that the entrance and the exit of the bridge has to go somewhere on land on either side.
Yeah.
Those people are going to lose their homes. I feel especially bad for the people who are going to lose their homes, though, because of staging. You have to stage all of that equipment and material.
yeah, right.
Some people will lose their homes because it's just a place where they need to put stuff while they're building the bridges. And then after the bridge is built, they're not getting their home or their property back.
Right.
That's going to be turned into green space or some kind of public park or something of the sort, right? So I feel somewhat badly for those folks, but I mean, this is one of those things that it serves the greater good. And that's the thing that eminent domain always is supposed to come down to. Does it serve a greater good? There's always trade-offs, and you have winners and losers, right, in public policy. This is one of those things where we have many more people who are benefiting from this project. And Cape Cod has 250,000 full-time year-round residents.
Well, you know, look, I don't mean to bring up the biggest blemish on public works in this region, but the big dig. Yeah, right?
I knew it.
So, I mean, something like that has been the blemish for the whole country on things like that going awry, because initially it was designed to cut that whole commute down. And I don't know the details, and I'm speaking right out of my rear end when it comes to this, but I've heard that it only literally shaves like 3 minutes off of your commute going in and out of the city.
Now.
However, it is with the green space and like the public park area, it is better looking at it. I don't know if I would associate the cost with the improvement to say that it is better one way or the other. But I hope that this particular product, because I live in South Plymouth, so the bridges have always, and my mother lives right over the Bourne Bridge, so even going to see her is a 5-minute trip or an hour trip. It really depends on when you go. I hope it doesn't go astray and take way too long, and because you think that they could come and the way technology is these days, put something up very quick. But how long are they? I'm asking you. You're not. That's not even your project. Like, that's not even why you're here. Let's do a whole other show when it comes to bridges. And,
I think we should. And, you know,
okay.
we are regional, so we certainly
Yeah.
have to take that. And one of the things I'm very proud of, we fostered a great working relationship with Cape Cod. Myriad leaders on Cape Cod, especially the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. Katie Akeson runs their Blue Economy Foundation with them. She and I actually went to high school together.
Okay.
And so she and I have been working on Blue Economy initiatives together for the last 3 or 4 years.
I guess this bridge thing, now that I'm thinking about it, is great for Plymouth because it's going to put a dead end to the Route 3, and then everyone will just have to come and stop in Plymouth and be traffic.
If we're ready
come
for
stay at
them,
one of our hotels.
we're ready for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of opportunity and potential piggybacking off of Cape Cod. And I mean, look,
sure.
even getting to P-Town, we talked about P-Town earlier in the segment. We're a viable alternative. I mean, if you can get to Plymouth, you can take the ferry to P-Town, or you can drive 3 hours, right? Who the hell wants to do that?
Yeah.
Plymouth actually offers a great deal more than what Provincetown can offer.
I wonder how long it takes to take a helicopter from Plymouth Airport over to P-Town.
So actually, I did do a flight once. I
Yeah.
wanted to do an aerial because I wanted to get a really good sense of what the tree canopy was like and where the squishy spots were, right? Frankly, it's 7-minute flight. Once you're in the air from Plymouth Airport to P-Town Airport,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
7 minutes. I've done it.
Yeah. I had a relationship with Blade, which was like a helicopter service that would take you. We had a sponsor who was like a private jet charter group. This was the heyday of experiences that I would have. Imagine going on private jets everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It was phenomenal. But you would land at Teterboro and then take a helicopter right into Manhattan, and it was boom, boom, and
Yeah.
it was so convenient. Now, I would never be able to pay for something like that out of pocket, but it was realizing as the crow flies how easy it is to get around.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those helicopters, they can be quite large, so you can have maybe 10, 15 people on them,
Oh, sure.
I think.
Oh, some of there was the tourism, the helicopter that just crashed in
I
New York
know.
last week. I mean, they had what, 10 people on it, maybe?
Yeah,
Something like that.
exactly. So I guess that's in the cons column of the pros and cons
Oh,
of
sure. Well, I mean, the threat
helicopter
exists
travel.
everywhere, right?
Right, exactly. But even the planes going back and forth from Hyannis Barnstable Airport over to Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, more affordable than you think,
Mm-hmm.
and a quick route. Now the ferry is nice in the summertime, and that can be fun. The high-speed ferry is great. There's all sorts of ways people can experience
You
and get
still
around.
get choppy
and-
seas, though, even on a nice.
Oh,
like
I
it-
know. Yeah.
I took the ferry once when I was living in Salem. I took the ferry once into Boston
Yeah.
for a meeting, and it was really terrible. I
Right.
really did not like it.
Well, the problem with getting on one of those planes is that, first of all, if you've listened to a Buddy Holly song or Bye Bye American Pie or whatever it is, you're getting on one of these small things. It can make it very disconcerting. The fact that they weigh you before you get on.
And make you switch sides
Right.
sometimes
I'm
to
like,
balance
lady,
the weight.
this is
Yeah.
no time to be lying about this, and I don't know
they're
exactly.
gonna know. They're gonna
right.
tell.
Yeah, they can tell for sure. It can be a little. It's a bumpy ride. I love aeronautics and flying and that kind of thing, so it doesn't bother me as much. But I can see where people would freak out about
Sure.
that. But it is fascinating to me. Like we're lucky on the South Shore where we don't have that. I don't know how we got away with not having the toll like the North Shore has to go into the North Shore. It's a easy trip from Boston right down to the Plymouth area. So much to do. You got the golf, you've got the summer beach, the restaurants, the history. There is amazing amount of things. And back to the whole contrarian conversation of like the problems. I was on 2 committees here in Plymouth, and I'm 0 for 2 with them. The unrelated to Plymouth Rock TV is the Plymouth Rock Studios.
Okay.
I was sort of in the mix of
Yes,
that.
the movie Hollywood East.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yep.
Kevin O'Reilly, I
Kevin
think, was
O'Reilly, that's
involved.
right,
You
yep.
know, was on your board, and I was involved with the Plymouth River Eels, which was an attempt to get a
Baseball
minor league baseball team to the area, which I thought, and at the time, seemed like an absolute no-brainer because you have that extra night of something to do, and it would be great for even residents to come out to on a multi-visit kind of scenario. And then it extended, I think that the study was that it extended the 2-day average stay in Plymouth to like 3 to 4 days, because there was more to do. But they call Plymouth the Myrtle Beach of the Northeast with all the golf courses, and there's so much to do. It's like it fascinates me that it gets, maybe it doesn't, maybe it's getting more on the map of recognized tourist attractions in New England, but there's just, I mean, I remember coming back from college back in the day, and there was nothing to do. And that was like in the mid-'90s where there was no place to even go out at night. I had some college buddies come in, and we tried to find a place to go have a beer, and it was just a restaurant. There was no nightlife. Now it's like Bourbon Street down there in a good way, and downtown. It's so much fun, live music, great food, outdoor experiences. I mean, it's a fun town.
I can't say it better than that. I mean,
Yeah.
the '90s was a rough time. I hear that a lot from people who are older who had been here. I wasn't living here and working here in the '90s. I was out on Cape Cod proper. I call this area, by the way, Continental Cape Cod. You might have heard me say that.
Yeah, okay.
I
haven't, but that's
I
great.
refer to Cape Cod sometimes as Peninsular Plymouth, though. So
Right.
there's some reciprocity there.
Yeah.
But no, I can't say it any better. The '90s was a time where I think Plymouth was really ascendant. I won't say we've reached our peak by any
Yep.
means. We're nowhere near our zenith, but here we are with a lot more to do than you did just a generation ago.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you for coming on.
Pleasure.
The Jason Veritek lookalike. I'm thinking, my mind's always going to podcast behind the plate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can do like food reviews and restaurant reviews in the area. And just because you happen to look like him, I don't know if it's just me. I'm always bad at the lookalikes.
Let's work on this. No,
Yeah.
I really like lookalikes.
Yeah?
Yeah. I used to work in a restaurant when I was a kid
Yeah.
out in Orleans, and a friend of mine and I would do celebrity lookalikes among the guests.
Oh, yeah?
We had one lady who looked like Cher. I don't think she intended to, but she looked a lot like Cher.
I'm always saying, everyone says Brad Pitt, and I'm like, okay,
Brad Pitt,
I see it. I see it. But
younger
like,
Brad Pitt.
A
Yes,
younger,
like
right.
Joe Black. Meet Joe Black.
Yes,
that's I'm seeing it now.
River Runs Through It. Like
Oh,
that,
that's,
you know.
that's
It's mainly the abs. It's like people are like, those are Brad Pitt abs. And I'm like, oh, look.
it's the kindness of your eyes too.
It is.
Yeah.
Softness, more so. Just a welcoming, a Pitt.
Clooney and Pitt
Had a baby.
had a baby. I mean,
Yeah.
that's older. That's
George Pitt.
That's where you are now. Younger
Yes.
you was probably very much younger Pitt. You're a George Pitt. Right
Where
now.
most people out there would say I look like the sea monster that's roaming around the beaches and the waterways of Plymouth.
Which
But,
end?
Which end of the sea monster? Is there a good end of the sea monster? Am I preferred to be the front or the back? I don't know. I gotta see.
It's a Solomon's baby question, really.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. I
Pleasure's
appreciate
mine.
it. And we'll certainly have you back. So much going on here in the area, and I think that obviously this is very interesting for the people who live in the area, but more so for people who see us from out of state and who are considering a visit to Plymouth. So many. We're coming right into tourist season right now. So many fun things to do, great places to stay, great places to eat, free entertainment and waterfront. We didn't even talk about all the, the arts that taking place in the Spire Center and the town green or the waterfront stage where there's so much activity. There's never a shortage of things to do in Plymouth.
That's true. I think the only thing we're missing,
Yep.
a personal invitation to the audience to come to Plymouth. Where's that camera? Right there?
Right, yeah.
Come to Plymouth. You are personally invited.
There we go. That's all they needed. That's what they were holding back on.
Yeah.
So now you can thank this guy for all the traffic that you'll get on Route 3 coming down when you're on Friday.
Hey, thank you.
It was a lot of fun.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome.